Welcome to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in The Bad Batch, episode 13. The episode is titled Infested, and this is referring to both Roland Durand and the Pykes infesting the bar, and the Earlings infesting all of Ord Mantell.
The caverns have a slight infestation problem.
And also Omega infesting our little hearts. And of course, we've been to Ord Mantell numerous times in the show, and it was first mentioned by Han Solo in The Empire Strikes Back.
Bounty hunter we ran into when Ord Mantell changed my mind.
So the Bad Batch start off by talking about another infestation from their last mission.
She failed to mention the drop zone will be swarming with Gundarks.
Gundarks were also first mentioned by Han in Empire.
Heck, he looks strong enough to pull the ears off a Gundark.
We also heard them mentioned in Attack of the Clones.
I haven't felt you this tense since we fell into that nest of Gundarks.
And finally saw them live action in the Clone Wars.
This should be interesting.
Soon we will find out that the city is infested with these new soldiers who are working with the Pykes. The Pykes are one of the major crime syndicates in the galaxy who had a major role in Clone Wars Season 7 when Ahsoka, Trace, and Raffi lost a shipment of their spice in hyperspace. Spice was also first mentioned in A New Hope,
sent to the spice mines of Kessel or smashed into who knows what.
And was written as an homage to the spice melange from Dune. That new Dune trailer looks pretty sweet, doesn't it? The Pykes also own the spice mines of Kessel, which we finally saw in Solo. Notice that the Pykes look very different in that movie, and also so do the guards. But we've already seen in the Clone Wars that the leadership of the Pykes don't wear masks and their foot soldiers do. Also, the guards on Kessel look like they could have been a beaten down version of the guards that we see on this show. So it's cool to see how the Bad Batch is creating a visual bridge between the Clone Wars and Solo in very subtle ways. So subtle it almost makes me wonder if the production designers of Solo didn't really bother to look at the Clone Wars and see what the Pykes actually looked like. So the bar is doing crazy business under Roland Durand, who is a Deveronian. We see a Pantoran tending bar, and here we see a Bith, a Rodian, a Godel, and this pink pig guy is your mom. You'll remember that the Bith were the Star Wars Cantina Band.
Thank you, we're the Cantina Band. If you have any requests, shout them out. Play that same song. All right, same song, here we go.
In this episode, we can actually see a poster for a Bith band. That's an awesome touch. Roland has taken up residence in Sid's office, and we see that he has the lizard Ruby, who we met in episode 7.
It's loose! Get it off! Get it off! Get it off!
I'm glad to see that Ruby made it out alive, which is more than I can say for Jabba's Rancor.
That's a good Rancor!
Then they run into Sid, a Transdoshan who's voiced by Rhea Perlman from Cheers, and it's nice to see that her regulars are still loyal to her. This is a Weequay named Ketch and the Ithorian named Bolo, and of course these people are always in her bar. I also like that Bolo uses a translator to speak because their native tongue sounds like this.
Ithorians, four throats. Quite powerful.
Sid goes on to explain that Ord Mantell is at the center of major hyperspace routes. Now, this is explained way more fully in the novels, but when ships enter hyperspace, they're actually traveling through hidden subdimensional pathways. These routes are pre-existing and crisscross all of the galaxy. So, when a ship enters hyperspace, it's not just flying around blindly, it's actually traveling on a hidden highway of different routes. Also, side note, these routes are also taxed by the space governments, which is why the opening crawl of The Phantom Menace mentioned the taxation of trade routes being in dispute. The rodent in Sid's back closet looks like a Gasol rat, which first appeared in the Legends comic book Legacy. Now, if that is the same rat, then this is their first canon appearance. God, that's the nerdiest thing I've ever said. If confirmed by Disney, then I will have to be credited with the canon entry on the Wikipedia page. The hatch leading to the tunnels is a hexagon.
Not the beast!
And of course, anytime there are mining carts involved, we're going to be reminded of another Lucasfilm property, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Literally everyone can spot this reference, and it's not a big deal if you noticed it. The carts also run on a monorail, meaning that this has been stuck in my head all day.
Once again!
Now when they're traveling across this chasm, of course, Wrecker's the one who plays the part of Pippin.
It was an accident!
So, Bolo and Ketch lure Ruby out of the bar with Mantell Mix, Wrecker and Omega's favorite snack.
Best part of the mission.
So when they're on the street, these signs in the background read north and west, and later, when Sid and the others steal the spice, notice that it's actually stamped with the symbol of the Pike Syndicate, just like Roland's jacket is. Now, I know the Pikes are trying to protect their property and ward off any people messing with their stash, but what kind of crime syndicate just labels their drugs?
It's illegal, we shouldn't have it just out, but thank you.
I mean, what is the Pike gonna do if they get caught by the Empire?
I don't even know what this is. This sort of thing ain't my bag, baby.
Then again, this could just be an indication of how powerful the Pikes are. They can get caught red-handed by the Empire, but because they control the judges and the politicians, they get away with it. They end up dropping the spice into the nest of Earlings, which again is repeating a plot point from Clone Wars Season 7.
I dumped the spice.
You did what?
Actually, the infestation of Earlings answers a question that I've had for a while about Ord Mantell. Back when the planet first appeared, I noticed this bat graffiti here, and it also appears again in this episode. It looks so much like the Batman symbol that I thought it was an homage to Batman, but now we see it's probably a reference to the Earlings. See, we learned that the whole planet is infested with them. A badass hive of creatures living under your city is probably something the local Utes would latch onto as a gang symbol, hence the tag. So how much you want to bet that in a future episode we'll get a pitch black kind of situation where the whole planet's like dark for a day and all these things just come out and feast. The Pikes also name check Obadiah, their headquarters, which we last saw Ahsoka escaping from back in the Clone Wars.
We're clear. Let's go, Rafa.
Now, kind of in the background in this episode was Omega cozying up to Roland Durand.
Are you okay?
It's a small price to pay.
I've pointed this out before, but this is Omega's function in the team. Wrecker's the muscle, Tech is the brain, Echo's here, Hunter's the leader, and Omega is the heart. The Bad Batch are untethered from any other kind of discipline or order, so without Omega, they might have become bloodthirsty mercenaries, but because of her, they're always steered onto a more moral path. Eventually, I think she'll be the one to suggest going back to Kamino to free Crosshair from his inhibitor chip. This will also mean conquering her greatest fear, returning to her home planet.
You are never going back to Kamino.
Promise?
I promise.
And Roland Durand is an interesting character for the show to introduce. Now we start off thinking he's some kind of badass criminal.
Sid's out.
Or maybe Sid's boss. But then his image softens when we learn he has an attachment to a pet.
Good girl.
Then we learn that he has a badass crime mom, Issa Durand.
You take what you want. That's the Durand way. It's a tactic my mother's perfected.
So now he's become an even more sympathetic figure when we realize that he's in over his head and trying to impress his mom.
I'm not a coward. Would a coward have this?
What the hell is that?
These are my words, Mother. From Army.
He's also disgraced at the end of the episode by his Sylvie-like horn cutting. I haven't seen anyone this publicly disgraced since George Banks. So I guarantee you Issa Durand's going to become a key antagonist in this show, and Roland might become a secret ally of the Bad Batch since Omega pled for his life. He might even join the team since, like them, he's a little broken. Well, that's all the Easter eggs I found, but if you found any, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.
Mono!